How did a business permanently lose you as a customer? I had been a Wells Fargo account holder for 13 years. I started with a joint account with my parents as a teenager, and later opened my own accounts and closed the joint account. My brother also had a joint account with my parents that he later closed when he opened his own account. He didn't really use his account with them and it was sitting empty. Fast forward to me being in law school and broke as a joke and my brother's account overdrawn because of some fees they were hitting it with. Wells Fargo decided to pull money from my almost empty account to cover my brother's overdrawn account. The only link between my account and his that we both, at some point in our lives, had joint accounts with my parents, even though they were both now closed. Wells Fargo was wholly uninterested in listening to any sort of reason and repeatedly stated that this was their policy, despite the absurdity. My brother reimbursed me, but I closed my account and have refused to do business with Wells Fargo on any level since. I ordered carryout from a French restaurant in Pittsburgh early in the pandemic. The order was around $120. I gave them my PayPal debit card number. When I got to the restaurant, I added a bottle of water, which changed the amount I owed to, say, $127. So they processed the two orders for a total of $247, which I did not realize until sometime the next week. It took over a month to get my first $120 returned to me. The owner of the shop could not have been any nastier, saying it was my fault. Never have I ever gone back there. AT&T. I had the weirdest situation. We had to transfer our landline to their new service, but still AT&T to AT&T. It took over 21 days to get it working, and I called them every single day. No joke. They would say the same stuff, "We'll reset the system." I decided to cancel it, then said, "Well, you need to pay for the cancellation fee." I'm like, "But you guys lagged so long that it made me cancel." Did not budge at all and said, "Well, you missed the deadline." Canceled. AT&T internet, phone cable. Canceled. AT&T business internet phone. Canceled. AT&T mobile. I understand I'm just a number and won't bring down their business, but you ain't getting another dime. Edit. Wow. Didn't realize the hate. I thought this only happened to me, lol. Love the stories, spent about half an hour reading it. I'm currently with Xfinity Comas, which still gave me issues, but I'm not screwed that much yet. I had AT&T back when you had to pay for your long-distance calls by the minute. I had a rate of 10 cents per minute, which was a decent rate at the time. One month, they sent a flyer to my apartment that was literally junk mail advertising, but also contained some printed text that said I was agreeing to a 25-cent per minute rate if I did not return the ad to them or call them or something. They literally sent junk mail with an illegal contract contained in it. I called when I saw the rate had changed, and my bill was $30 higher than it would have been. They refused to refund the money and swore up and down that they were not at fault, even though there were other companies currently being sued for the same fraudulent scheme. I canceled my account with them and have never had another AT&T service or product of any kind since. They lost tens of thousands of dollars of my money over the years to scam me out of $30. I have never used them for phone, cell phone, cable, or internet since this happened, and I don't intend to. 27 years ago, there was a little Italian restaurant in Greenwich Village in New York City. We had a friend who was on tour with an entertainment act, and whenever he would pass through New York, we would all get together with him for dinner. He was coming through the city late one night. We couldn't start dinner with him until 10 p.m. This was not good for my wife and me as she was in her first trimester, and waiting that late for dinner was not good for her stomach. My wife and I had an early dinner in the city, saw a movie, and then met our friends at this Italian restaurant. We decided that since we were not hungry, we would buy all the appetizers for the whole table. There were about 12 of us. We also said we would not be ordering an entree. We were told that this was unacceptable, and I asked to see the owner. The owner came over and informed us it was the policy of the restaurant that we must order an entree, regardless of how many appetizers we purchased. I protested, pointing out that I had ordered over $100 in appetizers, and I could get 2 entrees for $15 each. This idiot would not budge. So I canceled the appetizer order and purchased 2 lasagnas instead. I then requested that the entrees be packaged for takeout as neither my wife nor I were hungry in the least. I was once again informed that the entree must be presented at the table before being boxed to take out. Neither we nor any of our friends ever set foot in there again. I had a client in the village 4 months later and I walked past that restaurant. It was boarded up. Good riddance. Reminds me of a time I tried to eat at a fancy place in Denver. Me and friends from high school were there for a trip, and we went there to take my friend for a birthday treat. They didn't understand that we were from out of state and didn't understand that they forced a minimum $50 order per person, and we were clearly under 18. There were 12 of us when we got there and were seated. Many of us couldn't afford more than $25. We explained to the host we could only afford what we could afford, and the host said that was okay. We went, okay, thank you. We looked at the menu and there were plenty of items that were $12 or $20 that we could afford. So we ordered those items. While we were waiting and talking, suddenly 3 giant appetizer plates came out and were set on our table. I was smart enough to ask if these were complimentary, and the waiter said no. I asked to have the host come over, and the host came over, and I asked about it. And the host had forced these 3 appetizer plates on us, which were $1.85 apiece. We got up without eating anything after standing in line for an hour to get in, and then sitting there for 30 minutes, and went across the street and ate Subway. It was a very disappointing birthday party. PayPal. I ran a small business once, and one crazy customer tried to scam us, claiming the product was defective, did a chargeback, never returned the product back. PayPal refused to work with us, even though we provided all the documentation, froze our funds, and sent a collection agency after us. We lost $2,500 to them, went out of business shortly after. PayPal is a nightmare for sellers. There are plenty of horror stories out there. I haven't used PayPal for 10 years now. Venmo screwed me over quite severely. I was having issues with my bank, Regions at the time, so I had gotten my boss to agree to deposit my check into my Venmo account. But then Venmo wouldn't connect to my new account with Discover. Instead of just saying that, an error would pop up and my screen would return to the main page. I tried 3 times before Venmo gave me the error that my entire account had been frozen. Since I needed that money to pay my rent, I panicked and called. It took me 4, 5 people and numerous calls between Regions, Venmo, and Discover until I finally got a woman working for Venmo who said, "There, unlocked." Took her 2 whole seconds. With her on the phone, I tried and got locked out again. She said to give it 24 hours and there should be no more problems. 24 hours later, I get locked out again. I'm so fed up with Venmo now, especially after days of already battling Regions Bank, that I asked the guy on the phone how to go about canceling my account since I clearly can't get my money out. He said there was no way around it, and if I closed my Venmo account at that point, I'd be forfeiting all my money within it. Again, my entire paycheck. Now, luckily, I was able to work something out with my mom where she lent me the money, and I set up Venmo to withdraw to her account to pay her back. Then I closed my Venmo account and my Regions, but not before Zelle decided it would not, under any circumstances, connect to my Discover account. And also, I cannot disconnect it from my Regions account, which is now closed. This is after several calls to Zelle, Regions, and Discover. My favorite part is I'll randomly get emails saying, "Your Zelle access is back," followed a few hours by a "please disregard the previous email." Anyways, God, that was a rough-ass week. Basically spent the whole time on the phone. Kroger. Recently got accused of shoplifting while using the self-scan checkout when a bag of tortilla chips wouldn't ring up. I pressed the assistance needed option to ask for help to ring it up, and the employee came over. Instead of just looking up the item for me, they sat for 5 minutes watching the video recording from the self-scan, then asked me, "So you're playing games, huh?" "Yes, I called you over specifically to help ring up an item I wanted to steal." Kroger, never again. Sorry, but this made me laugh pretty hard. Sounds like something that would be on a Key and Peele skit. If you've made it to the end of the video, make sure to hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.